I joined the Marine Corps at 17 years old, and being the son of a minister, growing up on a pretty, small income, joining the military was an opportunity to serve my country, but also eat and have a bed.
How was your transition to working for somebody else and then starting your own entrepreneurship journey?
So there was a discovery process for me in that I had always felt I would do some things differently. And whether it's better or not, I chose the word differently because the power market is greater than all the manufacturing capacity in the world times 100x could do. So if all the Mitsubishis and GEs and Siemens and others built all the rotating equipment, manufactured it all, spun it around to an alternator and kicked out electricity, it wouldn't make a dent into what we forecast we need.
What would be one key takeaway?
A lot of the skill sets that we do are 80% or more, if not 100%, transferable. And so when we ask a pipe fitter, has he been working upstream, downstream, or midstream? It's the most ridiculous question I've ever heard.
This is the Oil and Gas Breaking By show, where we are going to invite industry leaders to talk about their journeys and also technologies of tomorrow, in an effort to break some of the biases that might have formed around this energy industry. Hello, everyone. I hope you're happy and healthy. I'm Anand Jha, and you are listening to the Oil and Gas Breaking By show. Today, I'm happy and excited because we are joined by Lance Medlin, CEO of Red Post Energy, a former Marine and seasoned leader with 2 decades of experience in oil and gas and energy industry. He has held various positions at Shell, ExxonMobil, Pemex, KBR, Petrofac, and many others, while guiding mega projects and operations worldwide. Lance brings unique perspective to this traditional energy demand with the push of transition. So with that, let's deep dive into his journey, get his leadership mantra, and also talk about some of the biases that might exist in this industry. Lance, I'm very happy to have you here today. Thanks for joining me.
It's an honor to be here, Anand. Thank you for your patience in rescheduling. We're here now. Let's make the best of it. I hope I don't disappoint. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much, Lance. As I said, your journey is incredible. Where you have started, and we briefly met last week. And we talked about your journey. So I'm honored to have you here today, and also I'm looking forward to learn from your journey. So without any further delay, can you please talk about how you have moved from marine to engineering, and now you are leading a company in the energy space, so we can all learn from it.
If you can learn from it, feel free to share the lesson with me as well. When I was, I guess, a young man, and I would say young enough to not really have developed a plan on what my life is going to be, I think Superman, that was one of the jobs that I thought, well, that'd be a good one. And a race car driver. So I was, young in school, grew up in East Texas where opportunity was something others had on TV, not necessarily was present in the very small communities, the community I grew up in. I graduated high school with 17 people. So out of those 17 people, 15 of them still live in the exact same town, and they have good quality life, and they've made that decision proactively. 2 of us are here in Houston in oil and gas, and we were college roommates, and we worked together, and we went to high school together, and we've been good friends for over 30 years. 25 of which has been in almost 26 now has been in oil and gas. So my first thoughts coming out of high school, looking into the opportunity, was that I don't see where I fit into any of that. And being the son of a minister, growing up on a pretty, small income, joining the military was an opportunity to serve my country, but also eat and have a bed. I joined the Marine Corps at 17 years old and served for a little over 4 years. And then I used the GI Bill to go to college. The GI Bill paid my way through university, and I graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering. And I often make the joke, possibly not politically correct, that I was Trump's worst nightmare, or I would be, because I immigrated to Mexico. My visa. I worked in Mexico for years, and it was an opportunity to trade my labor for income. And growing up in a less below an average income household, income was very important and stability. So I ended up out of college working night shift offshore in Mexico. I think my first job was dragging hoses, and I did that for about 3 months, and I was the offshore night shift hose dragger. We had to carry our these large 4-inch camlock hoses up from dolphin deck to cellar deck so the deck crane could reach them. Very manually intensive. And then I did a really good job. And by the fourth month, I was the night shift hose dragging supervisor. And, then I made it to day shift. And within about 4 years, I was the engineer in charge of the entire facility or the entire field. And so that was, it has showed me that you can trade labor for results in the oil and gas industry. It is a merit based industry. And having been a former Marine, I like that. If I work hard and I do good, I get rewarded for it, sometimes more than others, both monetarily through dollars and paycheck, but also get more opportunity. Going from Mexico, I ended up in seconded to the Sunni Oil Company in Iraq. Well, I've worked really hard in Mexico, and the next reward is Iraq during a war conflict. And so that was 2004 to 2006, and then did really good in Iraq, and I got to run pipelines in Yemen. And so from there to Siberia to all over the world, New Zealand and Australia and Brazil and Singapore, and a lot of fun, wonderful places. It has led me to where I am today. I like to make the joke that if you get ran off of enough jobs, you pick up a very broad skill set. But the truth is that I was always one to accept an opportunity when presented to me. So I don't think I had the know-with-all to say, I don't think I want to work in Sakhalin Island. I just said, hey, it's an opportunity and it's going to pay and it's going to build my skill set. And so I'll take it. And then 25 years and some change later, here we are sitting in Houston, and I'm leading my own firm.
And that's amazing. And also, you mentioned about sometimes you have to make the decision like on the fly, like when you went to Indonesia for 4 weeks, and then 4 weeks turn into years.
Yeah, that happens quite often. So when I left Shell, the intention was the opportunity was presented to me by ExxonMobil to come from Seattle, where I was living with and working for Shell in the Vigor Marine Shipyard as a project manager, to come to Houston and join the ExxonMobil team. And I jumped at the opportunity. My wife was pregnant with which was to be our firstborn son, Mason. And our families were in Houston. And I thought, it's a good chance to go down. We'll be family oriented and I can do my job and work in Houston. And I've worked a lot overseas, and maybe I've done my time and I've put my work in, and I can cash in on some of that and stay in an office and raise my family. So I go down to Houston, and ExxonMobil and this wonderful process, he says, hey, can you go to Korea and South Korea and do a cold eyes review for 4 weeks? I said, absolutely. So I'll do my time. I'll go there, do a cold eyes review. When I came back, they're like, why are you back here? So, okay, got you. So packed up the family, moved to South Korea for a few years, finished that, came back to Houston, and said, well, okay, there. I've done my expat assignment, and I'll have the opportunity to stay in Houston for some time. Our second child was on the way, Miley. And, I was back in Houston for 1 month, came back in June from South Korea. And then in July, they're like, hey, would you mind doing a cold eyes review in Indonesia? I thought, I'm on to you now. I said, yeah, but it's just a cold eyes review, right? And I'll come back. Sure. I was there for 6 weeks. I come back. They're like, why are you here? So packed up the family, moved to Jakarta, Indonesia, where we stayed for a number of years. And then in 2018, we repatriated back to the U.S., and that's led to the private equity-backed energy opportunity kind of search that I am now leading with Red Post Energy.
Makes sense. And how was your transition to working for somebody else and then starting your own entrepreneurship journey? Like, what was the idea behind?
Yeah, so there was a discovery process for me in that I had always felt I would do some things differently. And whether it's better or not, I chose the word differently because we'll see, right? I think different, yes, and better for me, but probably not better for everyone. Maybe so. I had realized my whole career that I knew I was displaying and projecting a caricature of myself. I knew that it was an image of myself or a likeness of myself, but not really myself. The pace at which I normally choose to operate is normally a bit faster than most management teams acclimate to. And so I'd always felt my entire career that I was stutter stepping, like we talked about this last week. Why are we talking about it again? What are we doing? These are decisions that were made a month ago. They're in the minutes from the last time we met. Why are we not doing these things? And that comes off, it could come off as aggressive and less of a team supportive approach.
Yeah.
Whereas when I started Red Post Energy and I was able to say, hey, this is the pace that now we would do, and now we do
Yes.
things. The result of which is that in the past 12 weeks from launching the company, maybe it's 15 weeks now, what we have been able to accomplish is more than I have seen accomplished by other management teams in years and years. And part of
Yes.
that is supported by the current market in the sense that Red Post Energy is an independent power producer. We build, own, and operate. We fund, build, own, and operate our own power generation facilities, combined cycle power plants, for which there's a current market demand, greater than all the companies in manufacturing capacity in
Yeah.
the world could even put a dent in. So I'm not saying that, my approach is what has made everything perfect. The market, it's good timing on the market, but it was eye opening to me to see how freeing it is to operate at a pace that you're capable of operating and not having to kind of put on a different projection of yourself.
That makes perfect sense. And you talk about this decision. Sometimes we overanalyze things. So especially with the big companies, and there are so many of analysis, and you stuck in that loop forever. But when you have your own business, you can move fast. You can take the decisions and bring results. And that's what you have shown with the Red Post. You have started in April, like it's less than 6 months, and you have shown a significant progress in this journey. So
We
that's
have, and I would love to share with the audience. A lot of it is NDA restricted, so we can't go into it. But we can, I can say in a very high level that the company's exactly 4 months old. I think today we have, in the form of definitive agreement, over $1 billion of new independent power projects that are naturally gas fed combined cycle power plants. We also have a press release that will be coming out next week from including. And it'll be a joint press release between Red Post Energy and several state entities and federal entities announcing some great and wonderful things. And so when those come out, they'll be out. So we've been able to do a lot. And not only that, and all that's good, all that's fun. That's why this started, was to be productive. But we've also had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun um, doing it as well. It hasn't felt like work. And so the many hours a day and many days a week that I contribute to the company, and it feels like a leisure.
that makes perfect sense. So it's really great, and hoping that Red Post Energy will make really big in this energy industry. And there is a demand, there is an idea, and I think, and you are in really good direction. But just continuing the theme of this industry, like you said, like there is enough demand in the market. How do you see this energy industry is changing today? And if somebody wants to make it big, either as a business or career, how they can get advantage of it?
Yeah, it's so a lot of our success has been on our unique approach to our commercial model, also just the speed and competency in which we execute our conversations. For one thing, the demand for power is unscale is un we it's difficult for us to quantify. It's probably not even possible for us to quantify exactly how much power we're going to need because we cannot quantify the consumption factors of the user itself. The data centers being a big draw right now, but we've also been constrained domestically on our residential and industrial and commercial growth. So, if the analogy that I've used before is the litmus test for AI, for example. So data centers are a big draw on us on a power generation, the power grid, but we don't know how to scale that. We don't know how to scale that draw because we don't know what the end looks like. And so the push for data centers, and I get asked the question a lot, is are data centers the new hydrogen? And it is sexy. It's what everyone wants to talk about. You want to be
Yes.
part of some data center push, but we also wanted to be part of the hydrogen push. And to be quite honest, we knew better, and I knew better, and I was very hesitant to bite off big or to drink the Kool-Aid on that one. For number one, any new market that is generated through a federal incentive is likely not to survive
Yes.
the current administration or its party. And we saw that with the IRA. We saw that with hydrogen incentives. The other thing that can drive a market is conflict. So you either have a conflict or somewhere that's driving up a requirement for a certain commodity, say gasoline, for example, or you have a federal incentive that's reimbursing or creating incentive, commercial incentive for companies to do a certain thing. Both of those are time sensitive. They'll last 4 years at most, sometimes, and maybe 20 years if it's a straight conflict, a theater of war situation. And the AI draw is neither of those. That's the first time in history where we've had a large market opening without federal incentive or conflict. So if we took gasoline, for example, and we said, okay, well, I'm going to put 10 trucks on top of each other and cover the surface of the earth, I could still quantify pretty closely to the gallon how much gasoline you would need to fill every tank, and then based off their rated consumption, how much gasoline we'd have to have in production, plus transportation. You get to a big model, but I can tell you how much gas we'd need if there were 10 trucks sitting high and they covered the entire earth. With AI, it's not likely you can quantify that because how much knowledge is all the knowledge you need. And on top of that, every time you create new knowledge, you stack it on top of the knowledge you've already had, and it keeps compounding upon itself, requiring more storage, requiring more electricity. The challenge with that is we don't know when the end is, and it seems to multiply quite quickly as it gets new generation, new generation, new generation. The other challenge with that is that we don't know where the end is, but we're also not even sure we've started. And I give the example of the litmus test, and I used this example on a panel that I did a few months ago where if the litmus test is human factors, that means we're not even in the game yet. And I think about the first tire that was created, and somebody said, wow, this tire can make me walk faster and move faster than I can walk. So it was better than a human. But if tires today were marketed by comparison to humans, it'd be a weird TV commercial, like, the new
Yes,
Pirelli
right. Yeah,
800
yeah.
faster than 80 people running together. It wouldn't make sense. So tires are compared to tires because that's the way
Yes.
their generation upon generation. But AI is still compared to humans. It can write faster. It can write a better email. It can tell a better story. When AI gets to a point that its litmus test is other versions of AI, then you're at least in the infancy of its market. And I don't believe we're quite there yet. Because it's the litmus test is human productivity, then it's not even launched yet. And so not only can we not tell you where it ends, we're pretty sure we haven't even started yet. And yet the demand on the powered market is greater than all the manufacturing capacity in the world times
Yes.
100x could do. So if all the Mitsubishis and GEs and Siemens and others built all the rotating equipment, manufactured it all, and spun it around to an alternator and kicked out electricity, it wouldn't make a dent into what we forecast we need.
That's so it's good to hear, and also a little bit scary, like how the power demand is going up and up, and there are many ways, like we all trying to achieve or to meet that demand. But as you said, like it's still a long way to go. And even when you talk about the AI, how much demand, the power demand they need, I think nobody knows, because over the while it will develop, it will grow, and the new opportunity or challenges will come along with it.
Yeah, so it's difficult to forecast. I don't know that we have tools to. I don't know if we can. I'm sure somebody somewhere has come up with a model that could convey how we can forecast it. But layman, being myself, I have not received that information. To your point about how to getting into the industry and working with these demands, we've had a unique approach, and it is significantly due to our commercial model. We are not held hostage by power purchase agreements. I think that is where the market is falling short right now, in the sense that historically, if you wanted to spend a few hundred million or billion or more on a facility, you'd want to know that it produced a product for which someone would buy, and you would probably want them to buy it ahead of you
Hmm.
building it.
Yes.
And that's an offtake agreement, or in the power industry, we call it a power purchase agreement, a PPA. And I'll use another analogy. I like analogies because I have a hard time talking without whiteboards and thinking without cartoons in my head. So the analogy that I've used to describe our economic model, it goes back to vehicles again. I think about Henry Ford in his first attempt to build a Model T. He probably needed to go to the bank and borrow $1,000 from the bankers, and they said, "Who's going to buy your mechanical horse, you strange guy?" And he probably had to have an offtake, like Bob's going to buy it, and Bob probably needed to be bankable. So old bankable Bob's going to buy my Model T. Now, that was for the first Model T when there wasn't a market. And if Ford, for example, tried to pre-sell every F-150 that they manufacture today, Ford wouldn't be in business. Ford
Yes.
knows there's a market, they're manufacturing. So if I take Ford's model for producing vehicles and putting them into the market, and I say, okay, well, why am I, as a power producer, being asked to pre-sell every kilowatt that I'm going to generate into a market that I could not make a dent in if all the manufacturing capacity in the world was producing electricity? So the historical commercial models on a non-recourse project finance 40-60 equity debt split model aren't applicable anymore, and if they are applied, they're not functional. So we have demand for power, we have vehicles that can generate power, but we have a loss in the economic model in that lenders and developers are looking for a 60% debt package, and Red Post is not. We produce all of our facilities on equity developments. So we move very fast. I am comfortable with the risk that I will generate power and nobody will want it. I go to bed and I sleep just fine every night, not losing any sleep over what if no one wants the electricity I generate? Pretty unlikely. We've shared that model across different financial communities, and
Yes.
it has been well received. And we've received the support and including the equity that we need to develop.
And that's excellent. So it's a different model. So you produce and there is enough demand and that product will be consumed, so you have a confidence in the business model itself, which is a
I
little
have
bit unique, as you said. Like normally in energy industry we see other way around. They try to sign all the offtake agreements before they put anything on the ground. So it's different.
It is right. Yeah, it's are you okay with that risk? And I think it goes back kind of full circle to some things I said earlier about this market reaction. Is it pure? Is it true? Well, it's not induced by federal incentive. That's check that box first. That's a big box to check. Is it driven by a unique conflict in the world? No. Is the race slightly impaired by the United States' desire to be first over China in Dubai? Yes, but not significantly in the way that decisions are being made by any federal support that would change the natural route and evolution of power generation here domestically in the U.S.
Yeah,
So if
makes
you can
sense.
say all those things at once, and it's not supported by federal incentives, and it's not a product of conflict. The demand for power is pure and native and homegrown, and to whatever region you're in. And so, if those things are there, then it is likely that there's stability enough in the need for that, or the placement of that market and the need for that product, that you can invest without having to be concerned over administration change or conflict resolution.
Makes sense. Makes sense. It will grow by itself. Coming back to your journey, like a really, really good discussion on the industry itself. But coming back to your journey, if you are given a chance to reflect back on your journey, what changes you might make?
I would hesitate to make any changes because even the things that hurt at the time that seem like they had no value will likely present value at some time in the future. Something that doesn't make sense now will at some time in the future, and us given the opportunity to experience it, so I wouldn't want to change it. What I would do is take better notes. I think I have been very fortunate in my career to have exposure to some really wonderful, learned, wise people. And that goes from learned in the sense of life experience and learned in the sense of academics. And I've been in those rooms. I was too young, immature, and ignorant to understand the opportunity presented in front of me. I wish I had taken a pen with me everywhere I got and just taken notes. Mental notes.
So you can go back to those
Yeah.
notes and make a decision. Yeah, but now we are recording this podcast. This podcast will stay there forever,
Yeah.
until that server exists. So
Yeah.
I think whoever is listening and our listeners, they can have those notes now or later. So that's a good opportunity. But you made a really good point, and that also highlights the importance of that mentorship and leadership and that helps you to grow in your journey, correct? Like you need some kind of people around you to guide you through
You
this whole
do,
process.
you do, and it's even if went back to my younger self and said, "Hey, the exposure you're getting and the life lessons that you're participating in, pay extra attention." I absolutely would not pay extra attention. It was a younger version of myself saying, "No, I've got this," and it'd be very unlikely that even with my own tutoring, if I saw myself in a time machine coming back, as shocking as that would be, I probably would just kind of say, "No, I'm paying attention." But absolutely tons of missed opportunity and life lessons, I'm sure. But I just reflect knowing that I have been surrounded with such a high quality of groups and people. I wish a larger portion of my focus would have been in observation of others, not just in observation of my own.
That's really great way to put it. So there are always opportunity to learn. And with that, that will also bring us to our rapid fire round,
Good.
continuing your theme of your journey and career. So are you ready, Lance?
Well, it depends on what the rapid fire consists of, but I'm going to venture that I'm ready.
So let's start with the first question. Are you early bird or night owl?
Both.
Both. Okay.
I sleep from 10:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. 7 days a week.
That's good. So you balance on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I have, I'm open and upfront that I have ADHD. I would say I've suffered from ADHD my whole life, but I never knew I suffered from it. I didn't think anyone slept. I thought we all were anxious, hard workers, 23 and a half hours a day. So I sleep 3 to 4 hours a night, but I would say that puts me in the night owl and early riser category.
Okay, that's good way to put it. Offshore or refineries, which feels more like home?
Offshore, funny enough. So, well, what I'll say is that new construction feels like home. The greenfield refinery market in the U.S. has been completely absent since 1980s. So it really no outside of some topping plants. There's
Yes.
no refinery activity. Market will tell us when it's ready for that. The offshore is where I cut my teeth, and so and probably literally on many cases, but it's where I kind of came up, and so that feels like a family reunion, given those opportunities. Now, being completely devoted to the power generation market, it really is new construction, utility atmosphere is what feels like home. If I had a family reunion and had to go back and see where all the folks are that got me here, it'd be offshore in the North Sea or in some other cold and miserable place.
Let's move to the next one. The best leadership advice you have ever received.
The best leadership advice I've ever received was not a message, it was an example. And I'm really glad you asked that question. So, there's been a few extremely influential characters in my life. And one of them was Captain Jean Luc Picard of the Starship Enterprise. So, I'm going to show my age a little bit and also show that I'm kind of nerdy in the fact that I'm a Trekkie. I like Star Trek and all things Star Trek. And that's not Star Wars. So, don't come at me with the Star Wars stuff. He was, he's just a consistent, calm, equally dispersed leader, and I always appreciated that. My biggest lesson came from the old "don't judge a book by its cover" type analogy, and the fact that in the Marine Corps there was a battalion commander for which I served under. His name was Captain Cushing. Captain Cushing was a small framed, maybe he was 6 foot at best, but small framed, wiry kind of guy with blue eyes, pale blue eyes, almost gray, almost as if they weren't even there. And it was a ghostly type of presence. And he always had officers normally didn't chew Copenhagen, these things, but he always had a big thing of Copenhagen in his mouth. And he had the Marine Corps voice and he'd use the knife hand. Well, his call sign was Dracula. And I was very sure it was because he ate babies. And it had to have been. This was the kind of fear and intimidation he put into uh, everyone around him, including higher ranking officers.
Yeah.
Captain Cushing, one day, invited me into his office to sign a document that I had written a poem, and it was submitted to. I'd written a short story and a poem, and it was submitted to the Leatherneck, the Marine Corps Journal, and it was published. And he thought that was fantastic, and so he invited me in. He said, "Would you sign this copy of this?" Heck of an honor for me. I think I was a lance corporal or a corporal at the time to get into the battalion commanding officer's office and into Dracula's office. Call sound Dracula. And on his wall, there were a lot of paintings, and they were originals. You could tell good, but they were originals. Some were not quite as, I will say, beauties in the eye beholder. So we'll
Yeah.
say some were better looking.
Yeah.
And I asked him about the paintings because I'd seen Captain Cushing with his spouse one time, and she had dreadlocks, and it was very odd for what we assumed this baby eating monster would be partnered with. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, the paintings." I said, "Is this your wife's?" He goes, "No, they're mine." "Oh, you're a painter." It's like, how did that come about? Turns out that Captain Cushing has an art degree from Berkeley, California, the most liberal
I-
university in the land. And the only reason he joined the Marine Corps is because the Army, the Air Force, and Navy wouldn't honor an art degree. So
yeah.
the
Okay.
hardest man I had ever met in my life was an artist from the most liberal school in the nation. And I later, Peter Cushing, Dracula, his first name is Peter, Captain Peter Cushing. Cushing was the name of the first British actor who played Dracula on the first Dracula movie
Okay.
miniseries.
That's where it came from.
Right. So this cold and calculated, gray-eyed monster killer Marine was an artist from California whose call sign was simply made after a movie actor. Now, Captain Cushing was one of the most solid role models I've ever had in my life, but it made me very aware instantly that it's okay to have depth to yourself. You can be the hard charging, hardcore, old eyed killer of a captain in the Marine Corps and also be an artist and also like poetry and also have these things. You don't have to be so shallowly one dimensional that the cover of the book itself is the only printed page you have in your life. And so it gave me a lot of confidence by seeing the way he lived his life to say, I can have more to me than just this.
That's
It was a
that's really
huge
great.
lesson
Really,
for me.
really great story. Definitely. That's really great story. One word that describes the future of energy.
One word that describes the future of energy. Expansion comes to mind, but I don't think that's the right one. I would struggle with one word. I think the future of energy is going to show us how to operate as humans, as a human race. We are about to embark on things that require more from us than we've been able to put forth. Our processes, for example, this Silicon Valley is so Google comes in, they says they want a data center, and they come to a traditional energy utility, oil and gas company, and say, well, can you build us a natural gas pipeline that gives gas here to feed these turbines and a power producer? Can you put together this combined cycle power plant? And we instantly hit them with our processes of supply chain, and we'll need 3 bids, and we're going to split the bids between technical and commercial, and your commercial guys will review it, but they'll be blinded to the technical. And Google's like, I have a check for $18 billion. Do you want this or not? They're like, well, yes, but should we use our specs or your specs? They're like, we don't want specs. We just build the thing. We can't get over ourselves thinking, well, there's a process here and we must follow it. And we do that for a good reason, because we're a 140-year-old industry that has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? We have to figure out how to communicate to the other industries. What the power generation market is going to teach us is how to adapt quickly without limited vision. We've talked about nuclear power for not on this podcast, but as a culture or as a country, as an industry, we've talked about it for decades, right? And we have some nuclear power plants. The U.S. less than others. We're going to have to figure that out real quick. I think within the next 10 years, we're going to see small modular reactors. We're going to see nuclear generated power throughout the U.S. That growth from combined cycle power plants, natural gas fed, to small modular reactors is going to happen in a very short time. That trend, that ability to grow and expand into something that we thought was far, far, far away, the ability to grab something 100 years out and pull it into 5 years from now, that's going to teach us. That's going to change our culture. It's going to teach us that we can put people on Mars. It's not 80 years away. Maybe it's 4 years away. We can work outside of our solar system. I think that our reach into power generation here domestically for AI and for consumer consumption is going to change the way that we react to challenges. I think we're going to meet the challenge, and I think that's going to establish, hey, we can work outside of our own processes. We can reach for things greater than our arm's length. That's
Makes
what I
sense.
think.
Yeah. No,
Much more than one word.
I know, but that's really good way to put it. Just last not the least, a favorite travel destination for work or play, because you have been to many countries.
Home.
Home sweet home. Yeah.
Mhm.
I know, after all the travel, you just want to go home.
Well, that is my favorite travel destination. I'll be in DC again this next week. I was in this past week. What is today? Today's Friday. I've been in Austin at the Capitol, Corpus, Brownsville, Richmond. I'll be in DC next week. And my favorite destination is when the itinerary, I might get my little United app or whatever I'm on, and it says Houston, Texas.
That's
Wow.
that's really good way to put it. No, thank you so much. Like really, really thoughtful answers to these questions. So just moving on this discussion, we have discussed a lot. Like we talk about leadership, mentorship, the energy trends, and everything. But you have to summarize everything as one key takeaway for our listeners. What would be one key takeaway?
If I had one summary to put forth, it's I hope that some of the conversation has been relevant to capabilities. We've got new generations coming into the industry, various industries from data to INC to electrical to civil construction, et cetera. It's that you are capable. You are absolutely capable. Most of the knowledge that I've picked up in the 25 plus years I've been in this industry are specific to the processes in which we implement to get these things done, not on how to do the thing. I knew how to move dirt when I was 15 years old. Now I know ExxonMobil's permit to work system and their work management system on how to apply for confined space permitting and whatever else in order to move the dirt. I already knew how to move the dirt. So most of what we implement in our lessons and our day to day for younger generations, new hires coming up, is not that you don't know how to do it. It's, do you know how to do it exactly the way we want you to do it? You know how to write an email. Well, but here's the signature formatting and everything else. I would like for people to know that they are capable. Just because they don't know how to format their signature doesn't mean you can't write, that you don't have a message to send. You are capable when you come into the industry, with the exception of some extremely technical type of field, which is not much of what we do. I think the other takeaway that we have is collaboration is key. Collaboration is absolute key, and not just from individuals, but from industries. But also, we need to appreciate the ability that we have to cross pollinate between skill sets and streams. I think the biggest disservice that we have in our industry is that we named it by stream. We have downstream and upstream and
Yeah,
midstream.
midstream. Yeah.
Well, I have never met a 2-inch ball valve that knew if it was downstream, upstream, or midstream. I've never met a safety lanyard that knew if it was in a utility or a refinery. And a lot of the skill sets that we do are 80% or more, if not 100%, transferable. And so when we ask a pipe fitter, has he been working upstream, downstream, or midstream? It's the most ridiculous question I've ever heard, outside of possibly nuclear, where there's codes and
Yes, you're right.
code enforcement training. But it's the pipe doesn't know where it's at, nor should the pipe fitter care. The electrician outside of HV and BLV shouldn't care either. And so
Yes,
we
you're
we
right.
really should make a pretty strong industry push to tone down the well, I've been in upstream for 20 years. It's like, you're a Delta. You're an Emerson Delta V DCS operator. Like, it's the same DCS on wherever it's. I think that we should probably stop trying to compartmentalize ourselves and stop trying to be nichey as humans do, and say, my ability to do X can be performed at almost any stream there is, and just downplay this likelihood that we have of, or this liking we have to put everyone in a little silo or a little box and say, well, no, you've been upstream. You can't work
Yes, you're
downstream.
right. You're right.
Vice versa.
And we should break those barriers, as you said. Like those
Yes,
skills are transferable.
it is. I think
So just one more thing. I think you already touched this point before, but one of the like what would be one of the bias that exists in the industry, and how can we overcome?
the fact that we are
Makes sense.
short skilled workers in certain streams, and we look first at the hiring practice of, well, but they can't work in the refinery because they've been in a power plant,
Yes,
or
you're
vice
right.
versa, or whatever. They can't work offshore because I can't work onshore. They've only ever been offshore. I think the humans are much more adaptable than that. And if you take the time to interview them and talk to them, I think they could probably figure out how to walk on concrete, not grading, or vice versa. So we've done some damage to ourselves and our ability to expand quickly because we limit the actual usability of human resources. And we say, well, no, we're biased to you because you've been in this, you've been in whatever.
You made really, really good point. I have seen by myself, sometimes managers, as a hiring manager, you go through that checklist, and checklist will tell you like check his previous experience and all those things. So you try to hit all the check boxes, and where we made mistakes. Instead of relying or feeling or agree on that skills can be transferred or even it can be trained. You more focus on the attitude of that person. Skills can be taught, but we do other way around. We go through that checklist and try to fill all the boxes, and that's where there is a problem exists. Yeah.
And we're going to have to think faster than that. We're going to have to be better than that. We're going to have to think outside the box a little bit. The resources we have aren't numerous enough to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. The world is growing faster than that. As we talked about earlier in the podcast, we can't even quantify the rate at which AI should grow, and we certainly cannot quantify what it looks like when we're done. And so
Yes.
we're going to have to be a lot smarter and less complacent.
That's really great. So we are coming to the end of our discussion. So before I wrap up, anything to add here, Lance?
No, it's a great discussion. I wish we had a lot more time. We could go over so much in so much depth. But thank
Yes.
you for having me on. It has been an honor, and it was a pleasure meeting you in person as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all your journey. And now we have an opportunity to replay this podcast again and again and take notes. That's what you just talked about. So again, thank you so much for your time. And I wish Red Post Energy will make big in this industry because as a company you have a new model, and that's what we all need, like thought outside the box. And I think it's
Thank
very
you.
thoughtful approach, and it will grow. It will make a big name in this industry. So with that, I will take a leave. Keep listening. Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show. See you next week. Have a good day. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.